The internet has been going absolutely off at JoJo Siwa, but are they right about her transition into a tradwife, or are people taking it way too far? In this video, we're going to be talking about JoJo Siwa and some of the controversy that she's been surrounded by lately. We're going to dive a little into who she is and how she got started, her time on Big Brother UK where she cheated on her girlfriend, and of course the current drama that she finds herself in. Born in 2003, JoJo Siwa is a celebrity from the United States. She first appeared on reality television at a very young age on some dancing competitions including Dance Moms. For as long as you can think of, she has pretty much been a celebrity, right, in the eyes of everyone, and we all know the effect that that can have on someone when they do start at such a young age. And by 2016, she had managed to carve out a career for herself, and her personality was very bubbly. She was very much appealing to children, and she knew that she was onto a winner by having these massive bows and cute hairstyles, which she knew would sell. And she followed this up with songs too, such as Boomerang, which to date has amassed almost 1 billion views. She has built a massive social media following for herself with over 12 million subscribers on YouTube alone. And if you say the name JoJo Siwa, it's likely that if a person uses the internet, then they'll know exactly who you're talking about. And to be honest, for the longest time, JoJo Siwa was someone who was mocked on the internet, but also someone that a lot of people kind of vibed with. They thought, well, she's just doing what she loves, and she's making money from it, so how can you possibly hate that? And even more people started to like her when in 2021, she announced that she was part of the LGBTQ+ community. Specifically, she said that she identified with being a lesbian. And although her identity is really no one's business and shouldn't be anyone's business, it did start to become the topic of discussion after JoJo went on Big Brother UK. If you don't know what Big Brother is, it's basically a television show where people get put in a house, the Big Brother house, and we can watch them 24/7 on the TV. And then the highlights from said day get taken and put into an actual episode. And in early 2025, JoJo was a contestant on the latest season. Initially, JoJo was very open about how she was in a relationship with her non-binary partner, and she also made it abundantly clear that she was still identifying as a lesbian. But things got very heated early on in the Big Brother house after a comment that one of the contestants made. Early in the season, Mickey Rock, who was a contestant, asked JoJo Siwa if she liked boys or girls. She replied saying that she liked girls and that her partner was actually non-binary. Rock, who is 72 years old while JoJo was 21 at the time, told JoJo that if he stayed for more than 4 days, then she wouldn't be gay anymore. JoJo replied saying that she can guarantee that she'll still be in a happy relationship and very gay. And what did this 72-year-old man decide to reply? He said, "I'll tie you up." Because that's a totally normal comment for someone in their early 70s to make to someone in their early 20s, right guys? Another contestant had also heard Rock saying that he was going to vote the lesbian out real quick. JoJo argued with that because she actually overheard it and decided to respond by saying if that's your reasoning, then that's homophobic, which it is. However, Rock decided to double down and he said, "I need a..." Not in reference to the slur, but in reference to smoking a cigarette. And he is British, a lot of people do say that here, but he then proceeded to gesture towards JoJo and said, "I'm not talking about you." Brock was then given an official warning for the language that he used, and said that his use of the slur was offensive and unacceptable. And in the next couple of days, JoJo's partner at the time would actually speak out about the comments made towards their then girlfriend. They said that the comments were rooted in misogyny and violence, before going on to say that the language was dangerous, describing the "tie you up" comment as a rape joke. And they weren't wrong, because by definition that literally is basically what he was implying. Now Rock was eventually voted out, but Siwa would actually stay in the house. And not only would she stay in the house, but she would start to develop a very close bond with another contestant by the name of Chris Hughes. Chris and JoJo were spotted bed multiple times, cuddling, and just being very, very close with each other. And this got to the point where people were starting to say that JoJo was essentially cheating on her partner on live television. And to be honest, it was very hard to disagree with at the time, because I'm sure if your partner did what JoJo did to her partner, then you would be pretty offended. And that's if it was done in private. Can you imagine if that was done to you in front of the entire nation? And after the season eventually ended and JoJo was out of the house, their partners still decided to come to the after party, because as far as they were concerned, this could have all just been for the entertainment of the viewers. However, they would quickly be proven wrong, because at the after party, they would be broken up with by JoJo while Chris was in the next room. But it's not just a relationship with Chris Hughes that caused some backlash, because we were basically watching JoJo have a sexuality crisis on national television. And that's fine. We can all go through that, okay? That's like a normal thing, especially when you're JoJo's age. However, it was certain comments that she made that specifically caused the backlash. She did make the realization by saying, "I'm not lesbian, I'm queer," but she also decided to say, the L, I'm going to the Q. And shortly after the show ended, despite vehemently claiming on many podcasts that her and Chris were just friends, it was announced that they had started a romantic relationship. Shocker. You couldn't see that coming, could you? And it's been that way for months now, where we get to watch them together on social media and claw our eyes out. And recently, JoJo Siwa actually kicked off one of her tours, and during one of the shows, she covered the song Betty Davis Eyes. However, during the show, she replaced the lyrics with Chris Hughes' Eyes. Very romantic, right? Oh, my heart, guys. And she decided that she would eventually record the cover in a studio and release it to the public. And I think it's safe to say that it did not get the reaction that she was expecting. I'll let you listen to an extract of it now.
And she knows just what it takes to make a pro blush. All the boys think she's a spy. She's got Betty Davis eyes.
Now look, I can't sing. I'm a terrible singer. But JoJo, why do you sound like a robot has been chain smoking for 50 years? You know, I genuinely don't think this song would sound bad, because if you listen to the first 30 seconds of JoJo's cover, it's actually not the worst thing in the world. But for some reason, she decided to go overboard not just with the auto-tune, but with the raspiness as well. And some of the comments on Twitter are certainly not pleasant. The original tweet said, JoJo Siwa previews our cover of Betty Davis Eyes. And one of the top replies with almost 6,000 likes says, well, unpreview it. Another one says that JoJo's threatening to release music? And look, I know we all slandered Karma. I slandered Karma as well. But oh my god, I have never wanted her to go back to that song so bad, because I don't think I can bear hearing this cover ever again. But we're not just here to talk about the drama, because there have been a lot of points made on social media about how JoJo Siwa has went from this very open lesbian to being what some people are describing as a tradwife. If you don't know what a tradwife is, it essentially stands for traditional wife, and it's a relationship where both the man and the woman will take on the very normal gender roles. Or at least what society sees as normal, that we all know now aren't normal. And the reason people are saying that she's becoming a tradwife is because when she was taking photos for the cover art for her cover of Betty Davis Eyes, she decided to wear this very traditional outfit. But you can see that she is very much just trying to dress like a person who is from that time, or some people have suggested that she is just dressing like Betty Davis. And I genuinely don't think that we're seeing JoJo Siwa becoming a tradwife. If you look at her TikToks, she's still dressing the way that she normally does. Her dressing like this for a specific song is no different to what she did with Karma. You know, she doesn't walk around with, you know, very strong black eye makeup all the time 24/7. However, that doesn't mean we still don't have problems, because to be honest, some of the comments left under some of the posts about JoJo Siwa have been genuinely disturbing. Now, before we get into those, I want to go a bit back to Big Brother and one of the comments made by Mickey. And that's a whole comment about how he he would tie her up and essentially imply that doing so would make her straight. You can see what he's implying there. He is implying corrective. And if you want to argue against that, then please argue with yourself, because I don't see any other way that you could take that. And to be honest, I think that that whole situation highlights a very dire situation when it comes to certain men. Now, if you were watching Big Brother at that time, or were on social media and paying any attention to the situation, then you would know that there was a lot of backlash, as there should have been. Lots of people were clearly against this comment, and it's at points like that when you realise that, wow, the world may actually be healing. But sadly, when it comes to the other side, you're reminded of just how dire the situation truly is. So there's a comment made by this guy called Dom on Twitter, and he says, developing. Former Nickelodeon star JoJo Siwa is going viral after she attempted to dress feminine amid announcing that she is a straight woman again. First of all, at no point has JoJo Siwa announced that she is a straight woman. I think she's actually described herself as bisexual now, so this is just a completely false tweet. But it's not the tweet where things get worse, it's the replies. One of the top comments with 420 likes, which might not seem like a lot, but it is for this, says, all it takes is to get off TikTok, find a man, get some and all that goes out the window. And I think that this is an extremely dangerous narrative to spread, and one that we'll see throughout this video. Because a lot of people seem to believe this way. A lot of right-wing men seem to think that you can essentially cure a lesbian by just having sex with her. And that's not true, because first of all, you should never have sex with someone in an attempt to cure them. And second of all, it's not as if lesbian women need to be cured. That's not a thing, okay? If someone is describing their sexuality as whatever, they don't need to be cured of it. That's just who they are. And if they decide that they want to change, or they decide that they want to experiment, then that's completely okay. That's something that they're allowed to do. It doesn't mean they're fixed, or whatever other terms you want to use. We've got another tweet by a woman called Hazel, and first of all, her profile is just absolutely shocking. Her bio reads British Patriot, and her banner says trans women are not women. She also of course describes herself as an adult human female. So I'll say what we're all thinking. Hazel, you are unemployed, get a job. But anyway, apart from the absolute idiot that is Hazel, we have this TikTok by JoJo Siwa where she basically says, you look happier, thank you, this is my mornings now and I've perfected how to make the perfect tea. Okay, cool, right? Okay, good. If she looks happier and she feels happier, that's fine, okay? You can discuss that amongst yourselves, but what I'm going to focus on is the tweet. So the tweet says, JoJo Siwa doing nothing to dispel the idea that lesbians just need to find the right man. Again, an extremely dangerous narrative to spread, especially from someone who is a woman. And that's another problem with the whole anti-trans movement, right? Because a lot of them do identify with these values. They identify with the values that right-wing straight men hold. And that's disturbing because it's not as if heterosexuality is the norm. That's just what people have been tricked into believing. Being gay is just as normal as being straight. And I know I'm gonna have some absolute in my comment section offended at that, but I stand by it. I'm standing on business. We've got this reply by Cassandra saying, I think she was groomed by the rainbow cult into declaring herself a member. I think it's so funny when people describe it as a cult because you know what, actually, I'm all for that. Can LGBT people, can we start, like, having, like, cult meetings where we just, like, burn straight people on a cross? Watch them take that seriously, by the way. They're definitely going to take that seriously. You know, I want to get cute little rainbow sparkly cult robes. If anyone has a contact, you know, hook me up. We've also got this reply from Hakeem saying, she was never a lesbian, just a prop for the pride cult to indoctrinate kids. She got too old to be useful anymore. And I hate this argument of, oh, they're indoctrinating our kids, dude, because what? Like what? No one is indoctrinating your kids. Your kids are exploring their identity. If an 18-year-old wants to explore their identity, that's fine. If someone younger wants to explore who they like and don't like, that's their right. They can do whatever they want. I think that a lot of right-wing people mix up sexuality with sexual because they are not the same thing. Romantic attraction is not the same as sexual attraction. Got a comment by Chris saying, I imagine that many women would reset to factory settings if someone like Chris Hemsworth showed interest. And it's absolutely disgusting to imply that women have factory settings because what? I feel like I'm saying what so much throughout this video. I'm sorry, but what? You know, women aren't phones. Women aren't computers. You can't just reset them to factory settings. And plus there is no factory settings. We grow up in a society where we're taught that it's the norm to be heterosexual. There's no normal. There really isn't. And believe it or not, the comments aren't just exclusive to the hellhole that is Twitter, because they're also actually on the TikTok videos themselves. A person from Twitter called Lily fantastically posted some photos of the comments, so I don't have to hunt them out myself. Everyone say thank you, Lily. But we've got some utterly disgusting comments here, such as, a woman is happier with a man. No they're not. She always needed a man's energy. Does anyone ever need a man's energy? She is normal again. Again, there's no such thing as normal. We're all weird. And this whole comment about being normal is literally on so many of these TikTok videos, by the way. And it's not just people with thousands of followers spreading these harmful rhetorics either, because even this person with 700 followers on Twitter says, hot take, some just need a good. And again, that's again going back to the dangerous narrative being spread that you can change women's sexualities. It shouldn't be up to a man to decide who a woman likes or what they want to do with their life. Some people describe themselves as anti-woke just so they can continue to be misogynistic. Misogyny is very alive and well in 2025, and we're not getting away with it, because as long as people like this exist, misogyny will still be spread. And in my opinion, that's very, very concerning. We've got this person called Dr. Doom saying, this should be a message to anyone under 25. That's me. That's me. Wow, okay, I need to take this seriously then, I guess. If you stop doing incredibly disgusting and perverted things sexually and stick to the natural order, your life will be much more fulfilling. Fulfilling is what I meant to say. Relationships are between a man and a woman. Trans isn't real and God is above all. You know, it's kind of funny that you're saying trans isn't real when you're identifying as Dr. Doom on Twitter, lil bro. And was there a need to bring God into all of this? God is probably looking down on you disgusted, lil bro. And I think it's also very dangerous to imply that doing anything that's not straight in bed is inherently disgusting and perverted, because that's just not the case. If we're arguing that way, then shouldn't we be arguing that all sex and all intimate contact is perverted? If you're gonna argue for that, then you're basically slandering yourself. This person called Benny Johnson has also said, pop star JoJo Siwa's rebrand from a radical lesbian activist to a straight trad girlfriend needs to be studied. We all know why this really happened. Woke is dead, nature is healing. This woke is dead stuff really gets to me, by the way. And not because I'm so offended and such a snowflake, but because it's just embarrassing. Look, right, I'm gonna make you a timeline with my arm, okay? So this is where everyone was like, hated on, right? And this is the point we're at today. I mean, you could argue that they're both the same. So at some point down this line, we decided to start getting more accepting of people, right? And the right obviously didn't like that. So they decided to coin this new term right about here called woke. And ever since, have started to describe all types of acceptance as woke. When realistically, I've said it before and I'll say it again, being woke is being a normal person. And I would never really describe JoJo Siwa, out of all people, as a radical lesbian activist either. I would argue that even today, her management and her are doing what they think will continue to make her money and continue to get people to talk about her. In fact, I even think one of the main reasons she released this song and posted so many snippets was because it's pure rage bait. We've got another person here with the whole factory setting stuff by saying, not trying to be crass, but it's because she got laid down good and hard. Great sex will revert a woman back to factory settings. But look, while the right might start to be liking her more, some people, including Hazel, who we spoke about earlier, are still very much against her. We've got this tweet here that says, JoJo Siwa has done so much damage to the kids who looked up to her while she swigged alcohol on stage, clad in rainbows and promoting transgenderism. And now she just expects us to forget it all? Well, first of all, you know, she's an adult. She's allowed to drink alcohol. I'm sure there are some people under the age of 18 who watch my content, so what? Just because I drink alcohol at bars sometimes, does that mean that, you know, I'm such a bad influence to the kids? And I don't think JoJo ever promoted transgenderism. The most she did was really have a trans flag or say that trans rights are human rights, which they are, unless you're literally trying to kill us all. But shocker, the transphobe doesn't like trans people? Oh, Wow. And one of the top comments on this post says, the fact that she is coming out saying that she was pressured into being a lesbian is so powerful. It really screws up the credibility of the entire movement. I'm recording this after the fact because I have something to add on this whole thing. Throughout this video I've said that JoJo is just a woman exploring her sexuality, and while I do still believe that, I also think that she's doing a lot of damage to the general reputation of the LGBTQ+ community. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think she should be doing damage, because I think that people should be smart enough, specifically right-wing people, to realise that this is a case-by-case basis thing. JoJo has come out to say that she did feel pressure to become a lesbian, felt pressure to box herself into one specific label from inside the community, and although she's saying that, that's certainly not the case for everyone, or the general public. And anyone will tell you that. It's really not hard to realise that's the case, but when she's saying things like this in the public eye, to the media, right-wingers are going to grasp onto that and use it as an excuse to hate on the community more. I don't know why JoJo can't see that, because it's so obvious. And I really hope that JoJo isn't out to intentionally hurt the LGBT community now, but I would be lying if I said that her comments weren't. This is a young woman exploring her sexuality. She has to do it in the public eye, sadly, because she is a celebrity, but all she's doing is trying to explore herself and figure out who she is. By exploring yourself, you're not being pressured into being a lesbian. No one held a gun to her head and went, "JoJo, like women now." However, some people in response to this have said, no forgiveness for grooming children. She needs to be put on a sex offender registry and brought up on charges. Okay, let's talk. So the points that Hazel made: drunk alcohol, dressed in rainbow clothes, promoted transgender people, drinking alcohol, no sex offence, dressing up in rainbows, no sex offence, promoting transgender people, no sex offence, you dumb bastard. How stupid do you have to be to think that this is grooming children? Even worse, to claim that she needs to be put on a sex offender registry for it. And I think that's really dangerous as well, because if you watch this channel, then you'll know just how many sick predators are out here in the world, and yet the right will always try and accuse LGBT people of being those predators. It's absolutely sick, and to be honest, the reason that I am so against this is not only because it's so dumb and stupid, but because it really just minimalizes the whole issue. We need to protect our kids from this new era of the internet where predators are running rife on social media and gaming platforms, and yet people like this are far more content just calling gay and trans people. Now, on the other side of things, there's an argument being made that JoJo Siwa is kind of stirring up this new wave in conservatism, especially the people who are describing her as a tradwife. Now, although obviously I'm very against the right, and I also could kind of see the whole tradwife point at first, once thinking it over and fully deciding where I stand on this, I think I have some thoughts. Like I've said, this is an example of a young woman simply experimenting with her sexuality. I've experimented with my sexuality, and no one's had a go at me because I'm not a public figure. We're all allowed to experiment with our sexuality, but JoJo Siwa was a child star. She grew up in the spotlight and she's never been able to leave that. And because of that fact, she's had absolutely no choice but to figure out who she was while we all watch on. It definitely wasn't right for her to cheat on her partner on national television, of course, that's obvious, but now she's still trying to figure out her sexuality, that's very clear. She has made some harmful comments towards the LGBT community, I'm not going to deny that at all, but this whole tradwife angle, I think we really need to let that go. If you disagree with me on that, I'd love to hear your thoughts though, because I understand that there can of course be two sides to this argument. A lot of people have also been making the point that JoJo clearly has a young and impressionable audience, and they might see this and think that gay is just a phase. And I can see why people would think that, because I do think that's a genuine narrative that could be spread here. Not only just because of JoJo, but because of the people that we've seen in our comment sections, or the right-wing people on social media. There's always been this narrative that if you're gay, you can be changed. That's why things like conversion therapy existed. And thankfully, like I say, we're getting out of that now. But we're running the risk of seriously slipping back into old ways. People are always trying to stir up stuff on social media, but my genuine thought is that the world is becoming a more unaccepting place. A few years ago, things were going fine. Things were going great even, in my opinion. That might have just been because I'm young and maybe not as educated, but now I can see the problems, and I hope that you can too. Because like I said, we had that part on my ARM timeline where everything started to get described as woke. And there is a whole group of people who will do everything they can to fight woke, even though there's no battle to be fought. And people like me and you, we have to stand up against that side. Because for us, there really is a battle. Not only against right-wing people like that, but towards the entire government of countries who are actively trying to harm people. I won't go too in depth about the whole trans issue here in the UK, but I wrote some articles on it and I'll link them in the description if you are interested. And you may disagree with me, but that was my thoughts. Thank you very much for making it to the end of this video. I really appreciate you. Like, subscribe, share the video if you did enjoy. We're just 500 away from 20k now, which is my end of year goal. So please, if you haven't already, or share the channel with your friends, subscribe yourself, do everything you can, please. Let me know in the comments what you think of this whole situation and your thoughts on JoJo in general. Check me out on social media. I have Instagram and Blue Sky, and if you want to get involved with the community, you can join my Discord server with the link in the description. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters and YouTube members: Brooke Entrepreneur, Morrigan, K4 Silver, Alex Rod, Based Finger, Carmella, Frozen Rosie, Shoshka, Midnight Kitty, Sam, Collectiki, Catfood, Moonbird, and Briar. I'll be back very soon with another video, but if you want another right now, then YouTube thinks that you'll like the video that's on your screen.